Hi, this is Chris from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from Political Voices Network.
Letitia James, New York Attorney General, yesterday.
We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready. We're ready to respond to their attacks. We're ready to respond to any attempts to cut or eliminate any funding to the great state of New York, as the governor outlined. So despite what has happened on the national stage, we will continue to stand tall in the face of injustice, revenge, or retribution.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you. We will have quite a discussion with Glenn Kirshner tomorrow. Judge in New York's criminal case considering tossing his felony convictions after victory, the path ahead for Trump's legal cases. I mean, it is a sad day for justice in America, but we shall soldier on. I mean, Dana, to your point about bullying before we go, these two headlines, Barack and Michelle Obama urge all Americans to extend good faith and grace to each other after Trump win. This headline, you people suck. Bannon vows DOJ and FBI will pay the price when Trump retakes office. Any thoughts on how we try to...
I think, honestly, and I don't mean to doomsday, I know we're supposed to make people feel better, but honestly, I know Trump is evil. I think he's sick. I think he's racist. I don't necessarily think he's as evil as Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk. And so, unfortunately, though, this man is now bought and paid for by all of these people surrounding him. They literally funded the campaign. So now he is beholden to them. So what they say is going to go. So I'm not necessarily worried about Trump's policies. It's all the people he's now surrounded himself. There's no guardrails. There's no guardrails. I mean, this is the first time, and I can say this, that I don't want anything bad to happen to him because I don't want President Vance and Vice President Mike Johnson, for God's sake.
So let's talk about Blake from Utah said, Mama, this nation has decided to move forward with a convicted felon, adjudicated rapist criminal as their president. As angry as I want to be, I honest to God knew this was going to happen. I called it back in the summer when they started forcing President Biden out of the race. I told my friends if he was forced out, we would lose in November. And I hate to say it, I was right. Giving Harris just 4 months to run a campaign for president was just mean and cruel. I think she did great. Probably would have won had she had time to put together a real presidential campaign. I hope you're doing okay. I wish I could give you a hug as we begin this long national nightmare. These are all the stories in the headlines, right? Democratic finger-pointing begins after brutal election night. Chris and I talked a little yesterday, Dana, that, we were saying Lawrence O'Donnell said that just historically it is suicidal to replace your candidate at this point. That being said, I don't see how she could have done a better job.
I don't either.
I mean, but you're right. Barack Obama had a year and a half to build what he built. But we were saying, and someone else said, oh, she should have separated herself from Biden more. And it's like, can you imagine how that would have played with the Democratic base? If she's like, oh yeah, he sucks, I'm going to be completely different. I mean, she really couldn't win, could she? I mean, she and also he has a historically successful record. And so the fact that he had a low approval rating, to me, says everything about the media and how they both sides do it, and they just, But yeah,
I know this may not be a popular opinion, but you just read an email from someone from Utah. There were two states that did not start to veer more toward Trump. One of them was Colorado. The other one was Utah. Utah held steady. I just read an article, and the Latter-day Saints actually did not vote more for Trump because a lot of them were turned off by his morals, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, his character. So I think we need to stop the finger pointing for sure. And really talk to the people in those states of what did they do right. We have 2 years, assuming there's a midterm, we have 2 years to build a coalition. There's going to be buyer's remorse. People are going to look for someone to help them. There's going to be buyer's remorse. His promises are not going to reach those people. We cannot look at them and be like, I told you so.
Some people are blaming Biden for not getting out earlier. Some people are blaming the Democrats for, they're pushing him out, or the media for pushing him out, or
But we really can't name call the Trump supporters. They're going to go push the other way. We have to reach out to them and show them there is a place in this party and the things that they feel upset about, we can actually help them with. I don't know why it didn't reach them this time, because I do believe she had policies that would have the $25,000 with the first home and all the other things that she was doing to really help the lower and middle classes, really help them.
Yeah, Medicare for home care for elders, that would have made a huge difference in my family. Just reading from this piece, the single biggest contributing factor to the GOP victories may have been high consumer prices. So in that I've said too, I think Biden would have suffered the same fate probably because of ageism and this
Right.
administration, the price of milk's too high or whatever. Democrats ran on proposals seeking to lower costs, including a ban on price gouging. Thank you. That's what I said. She's the only one that had actual policies. Donald Trump's will make prices go up. Didn't get through. You said in the end, Americans largely voted with their pocketbook and rejecting Biden's administration. So again, would have happened to him
Right.
or Kamala, I think, including Harris. Right. They're saying who made almost no effort to separate herself from his brand. How is she going to do that? Senator Coons noted that Democrats face headwinds resulting from the COVID years that busted other incumbents around the globe. I think there's a populist and anti-incumbent wave because of the impact of the pandemic and recovery. But the progressive wing of the party argued that Democrats should have hugged the left more in terms of policy and tactics instead of making appeals to disaffected Republicans, including Liz Cheney. So now you're going to have this, fight between both factions of the. But I mean, I also think that is true, that this was worldwide. But I think what's frustrating to us, Dana, it was his response to COVID that made it so bad here.
That's the thing, is that I don't know how we can reach the other side to say the price gouging started during COVID, and a lot of these companies are billionaires, they're Trump donors, and they're gouging prices. And it's not surprising that they raised them during the last couple of years of this administration to make it appear like the Biden administration is the one that wasn't doing their job with price gouging.
Right.
And now, groceries are probably going to go down because these giant companies just made a ton of money because Trump is the president-elect.
Yeah. So let me put this. So this is in this article, just so you have the people, obviously the lefter wing of the Democratic Party saying the leaders in Congress like the Squad have shown us another way of doing politics is possible and represent the promise of uniting our fractured nation and represent the promise of unifying our fractured nation into a multiracial democracy where everyone thrives and no one is left behind. On the other side, Claire McCaskill said, I think we need to start saying out loud, what's the difference between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? One's a woman of color, the other's a white man that everybody was really comfortable with, that were moderates and knew him well and had known him for decades. Simone Sanders, former Biden advisor, lamented the way Democrats pushed Biden out of the race after his debate. She also complained about his absence on the campaign trail, particularly in his home state of Pennsylvania. And then people on the other side are like, oh, his gaffes and his unpopularity, he shouldn't have been out there at all, and the garbage thing hurt or whatever. Just to finish, he said it's probably not the best idea that Democrats orchestrated a very public stab fest, a proverbial stabbing in front of the sitting president of the United States, and then didn't use him in his hometown of Scranton. Biden did campaign in Scranton late in the race, but he had a limited role in aiding Harris's campaign, largely due to his low approval numbers and fear of making matters even worse for the vice president. Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan said, I don't think there's any candidate, no matter when they started. It doesn't matter who came in. The right choice was putting in Kamala Harris, and they did. These numbers would be exponentially worse if Joe Biden was the candidate. So some of this Monday morning quarterbacking is necessary, and some of it is useless.
100%. Yep.
The coulda, shoulda, woulda is, different than the larger picture, right?
Yeah, and I think now it comes down to the fact of how much control are we going to have over this? How long is this going to hurt us? We know that there's going to be 2 resignations in the Supreme Court in the next 4 years. He's going to put in, infant Supreme Court justices that they're going to be there for the rest of our lives. We know this is going to happen. So there's certain things we cannot control at this point.
Those babies playing paddle tennis in the commercial.
Yeah, we know
guys.
this is going to happen at this point. But we still have control, and I still go back to, and I have to laugh about it because there are places that don't have elections anymore because they're under fascism. So I don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but let's just assume we are going to have elections. We can get the House and the Senate back. We can make him a lame duck president for the next 2 years, and then we build a coalition to beat the hell out of J.D. Vance in the next election because he's going to run.
Yeah.
He's going to run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trump can't run again.
Yeah.
Under this Constitution, the way it is now, I have to keep laughing because otherwise I'll go crazy.
Yeah.
But he cannot and will not run again. And so what are we going to do to beat the next person that is going to be running? And it's going to be J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be Peter Thiel or Elon Musk, but they're all the same person with a different name.
Or the 2 babies from the, not paddle
Or the
tennis.
paddle, or the,
What
or
is
the,
it?
oh, them.
Not
Pickleball?
Pickleball commercial. That's
Yeah.
it. Okay. New York Times writes, America hires a strongman. There was a conquering of the nation, not by force, but with a permission slip. Now America stands on the precipice of an authoritarian style governance never before seen in its 248-year history. We could have used a little help sooner, New York Times, but thank you
Yep.
for the warning
Yep.
now. Now a warning.
Now a warning.
Now a warning?
Donald Trump told Americans exactly what he planned to do. He would use military force against his political opponents. He would fire thousands of career public servants. He would deport millions of immigrants in military-style roundups. He would crush the independence of the Department of Justice, use government to push public health conspiracies, and abandon America's allies abroad. He would turn the government into a tool of his own grievances, a way to punish his critics and richly reward his supporters. He would be a dictator if only on day one. And when asked to give him the power to do all of that, the voters said yes. I mean, it is still sometimes, I think part of it is we're still wrapping our head around it, right? It is only day one, right?
And I also think that people aren't thinking about the future, and this has been historically true in our country. People don't think about the Supreme Court on the other side; they just don't, and so they're thinking about themselves right then. You know, I will say this: we have to stop using language like every Trump supporter is a racist, transphobic, horrible human being. I was shocked when you know that little Facebook thing where people put a red heart or a blue heart and no arguments; they just sort of put who they were voting for. There were people from high school where I was like, oh my God, why? And I want to ask them why. I know they're not homophobic. I know they're not transphobic or racist. I know they're not. So something made them vote for him. Can we find that messaging and convince them that we are the better party to give them what they are asking for? That's what we need to figure out.
I mean, some of this in the Times, Dana, is to your point. We just talked about COVID. They said, yet the electoral climate was ripe for Mr. Trump, though he had a hand in creating the weather. In the wake of the pandemic, which critics said his administration badly mismanaged, the country grew more skeptical of government in general. Right. The fact is, he was effing running it. Right?
Yep.
Trust in the media, science, medicine, the judicial system, other mainstay institutions of American life plunged as more voters embraced the doubts Mr. Trump had sown for years. I think that, in a nutshell, that's it. It's this whole bro thing. It's the whole, disinformation universe of Joe Rogan.
It's awful.
That's exactly right. Ironically, it's because he ran the government so badly, he broke people's trust in government and in any institution.
100%. When you have 75 million people write in Haktua on their ballot for president because they think it's funny, we live in an age of social media. We live in an age of technology. This is what we live in now. If we don't figure out how to actually use this to our advantage, we are going to continue to make the same mistakes. These kids, some of them are lost, and these bros that think that, God, I hate his name, podcaster guy, you just said it.
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, like these guys, and it's this rape culture that's coming out now on Twitter.
Yeah.
Your body, my choice. It's disgusting.
Yeah. I mentioned that. Nick Fuentes.
And he's gay, isn't he?
Seems like
Nick Fuentes?
I think
I'm not sure.
Well, I'll take that back.
Color us surprised if he's not.
One of his own followers said he was gay, so I don't know.
I don't know. Just quickly, a couple more things in the Times. Just unleashing, to this same point, unleashing a fire hose of insults and conspiracies. Mr. Trump gambled that a nation unmoored by a deadly pandemic and soaring inflation and deeply dissatisfied with the incumbent who had defeated him would be ready to re-embrace him as a blunt-speaking, menacing strongman who would fix it. That's exactly, that is right on. But just, he wooed Black and Latino voters with false claims that migrants were stealing their jobs and were responsible for a wave of violent crime. Again, it's the lies, it's the lies, it's the lies. Whether it's about trans people or illegals or Mr. Trump uttered the kind of insults about Ms. Harris and other prominent female politicians that were once unthinkable to say in public life, to your point about bro culture. And he ended the race by insulting Puerto Rican voters his campaign had spent months trying to woo. When asked about his most divisive plans, like his wide-scale deportations, radical reassessment of American commitment to NATO, many of his voters shrugged, saying they doubted such extreme members would ever come to fruition. Yet whether Americans, even some of those who voted for him, will like the reality of Mr. Trump's plans remains to be seen. In that way, let's hope he's as awful as he says he's going to be. Throughout the campaign, economists said his policies would raise inflation, increase costs for families by thousands of dollars annually, and spark global trade wars. His promise to empower public health officials who oppose vaccines could spark national outbreaks of disease not seen in decades. His plan to deport millions of undocumented immigrants could cost taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. What is clear in the end is that Americans wanted change, and now they will surely get it.
Yeah.
God help us.